Welcome to part 3 of Chapter 8, Values and Ethics in Social Work. In this chapter here, you'll see that there's a large section about values held by social workers. I think there's about 10 or so of them. I'm not going to go over everyone, but be sure you read about each of these values. I want to just highlight a couple of them. But all of them, could possibly show up in one form or another on the quiz. So these are some of the basic values held in common by social workers. The first one, this is in the practice of the profession. The first one is the commitment to the primary importance of the individual in society. Social workers believe that each person is unique, that they have inherent worth just being a human being, and that they should be treated, with respect and with dignity, irregardless of their station in life or their social, economic, race, religion, sexual orientation, that the individual in society is someone who is to be valued and respected and even celebrated as being important. And so that's a pretty powerful value for a profession to have. And that really has guided our mission as a profession. And in helping especially individuals within society who, because of whatever reason, have been discriminated against, have been oppressed, have had challenges to overcome. Another one of the values held by social workers is the commitment not just to help the individual, but also to help society change. It's great to help an individual, but it's also a great thing to change something in society, then thereby many individuals can be helped. So social workers have a value and have a commitment to bring about change in society so that things are more equitable towards people. People are receiving services that are needed, and changing things in terms of discriminatory practices and things of that nature. Another one, which I've kind of alluded to, is the appreciation and respect for individuals and groups and for their differences. And that's part of what I was getting at in terms of not just respecting, but also celebrating the differences that there are between individuals. If you do go into the social work profession, or really any of the other helping professions, you're going to run across all kinds of people who are different than you. Their religion is different, or they have no religion. Their culture is very different than yours, and many, many different possibilities. And rather than seeing those things as being threatening or strange, becoming familiar with them, becoming aware, and appreciating unique contributions that those individuals and that those groups of individuals bring to us all as a society. One of the other ones I want to mention is the respect for confidentiality. And while there are some qualifications on that, confidentiality is a value that social workers hold very strongly. That what is spoken between a client and their social worker remains confidential, except in only a few situations where if the individual is speaking about harming themselves or harming another, something along that nature. Otherwise, the conversations between a social worker and their client fall under confidentiality, and it's a value that social workers hold very important. I've just touched on a few of those. Be sure you go in and read all 10 and get a good look at them. The last thing I want to mention is the actual code of ethics. Now, the values or beliefs that we hold, the code of ethics kind of puts some of those things down on paper in a more concrete fashion that help guide us in our work in the workplace. And the code of ethics was formally adopted in 1960. You want to remember that date. Social workers have always been concerned about values from the beginning as the profession began to emerge, but it wasn't until 1968 that there was a formal code that was adopted. The code is broken into 6 sections in terms of ethical responsibilities. You want to take a look at each of those. It's the very last thing in the chapter. And the way I look at it is it talks about ethical responsibilities too. The first one being ethical responsibilities to clients. And be sure to take a look, at some of those examples. The responsibility of confidentiality, the right to privacy, self-determination, not to engage in sexual relations with clients, all these things that are important. The second one is ethical responsibility to colleagues, basic things like respect and, working together. But also things like, what are you to do if you become aware directly that a fellow social worker has a serious drinking problem or drug problem, and you observe it actually impacting their job performance. And so the code provides guidance of what we should do in those situations. The third is the area of the social worker's ethical responsibility in the practice setting. That's where you work. What are the things there in terms of supervision, professional training, billing, how you protect records? There's a whole host of things. And if you look through the code itself, you'll see some very specific guidelines and criteria for that area. Then the social worker's ethical responsibility as a professional, just as a professional in general, not taking credit for work that you didn't do, not misrepresenting yourself in terms of having greater experience or credentials than you have, and things of that nature. The fifth area is the social worker's ethical responsibility to the social work profession. To contribute to the profession of social work, to attend some of the national meetings, to participate in contributing to the knowledge and awareness of the profession, into the broader society, and just in terms of supporting the development of the profession of social work. And the sixth and the last area that the code addresses is the social worker's ethical responsibility to the broader society. The same like with doctors. If there's an emergency and someone yells out, "Is there a doctor in the house?" Sometimes what's needed is not just a doctor, but also a social worker. Social workers have an ethical responsibility to the broader society. When you are aware of a situation that you have the skills and the experience to be able to help out, you bear the responsibility to present yourself to those who are in authority on the scene and to let them know who you are and what you are, and to assist in that situation any way that is possible and appropriate. All right. That wraps it up for Chapter 8. As always, go to the back of the chapter, read the key concepts and ideas, thoroughly read and reread, the entire chapter, and that's all I have to say about that right now.